What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MikeTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Okja. It's part of my March Madness. I've been picking out 31 good, great, excellence Netflix movies to prove that they can actually make them. Starting with ones that, well, probably hopefully all 31 that I haven't actually reviewed before on the channel, which would be Okja. Um, I did actually get to see Okja. This was sort of in my phase of losing vision, but I remember being able to see the cool sort of visual effects of Okja, the super pig. And the story directed by Bong Joon-ho, who currently has Mickey 17 in theaters. So this was excellent timing. So click that like and subscribe button so we can talk about Okja. I'm also a blind film critic, and I talk largely about audio description and accessibility at a time when diversity, equity, inclusivity programs, which are largely the programs that focus on expanding accessibility for people like me, are being eliminated. So now I have to turn into a whore, basically, for for subscribers. So please subscribe so we can run back into the building and put out the DEI fire that for some reason is raging because I guess we're crashing planes and I don't know, we're responsible for egg prices. I have no idea. I don't get the logic. Doesn't make any sense. Uh, Okja is a wonderful, like adult fantasy sci-fi uh, smash up about factory farming, basically. And there's this premise at the beginning, which now that I rewatch the movie, I'm like, does that even make sense? Uh, Tilda Swinton is in sort of a dual role. She's playing the same character twice, but you don't find that out immediately. You find that out later on. But she's the head of this company and she's putting on a new face for it. And they're changing the way they do things. And they have this new genetically altered pig, this new super pig. And there are 26 of them. They've created them and they've sent them sort of like around the world to these farmers. And it's going to take 10 years to raise them, and then they'll bring them back, and one will win for making the best super pig, and I will eat them. I don't know. Uh, but then I'm like, but what about after that? 26 large pigs, even as big as Okja is, it doesn't like, can we really feed the world? Is this really going to, is it enough pig? Is it, and then like, so when we eat those 26, like she doesn't ever talk about like the next generation or, and we're going to do this like every year, we're introducing 26 new pigs so that when they reach their 10 year, we'll have another, like, there's nothing about like this cyclical factor of this. There's just like 26 pigs. We're gonna eat 26 pigs in 10 years. Cool. Uh, so one of the super pigs is given to this little girl. Well, her grandfather, but this little girl ends up growing up with the pig and calling it Okja, and it's by itself, so it's not with other pigs, so it can't really breed. There's not really like a how does it get more piglets or whatever, which sort of it really made it the whole question of how do you makes like the ending of the movie sort of like curious. I'm like, wait a minute, we never really talked about this. So like how do more of them, I mean, like, I know the birds and the bees, but I don't think this movie does. So it's the one thing that the first time through I was watching it, and Bong Joon-ho makes great movies. So you sit there and you watch it and you're like, but what about this? But what about this? Huh. So I had a couple of those moments on my second time through for a movie that I remember loving for the first time through. And it's all about the adventure. Eventually, Okja is taken in and ends up winning the Super Pig, the best Super Pig, and but then she gets separated from her best friend, and you can see that Okja is like a really intelligent creature that has like this like emotional bond with this little girl, and the little girl is placed there. She doesn't speak any English, and she's just like most of her lines just involve crying out Okja, Okja. Um, but there are kind of like a host of other people who come in and out of this movie, like Paul Dano, Stephen Yuen, Lily Collins, Devin Bostick, who are all sort of in this film to help fuel. So I want to say eco-terrorism is the wrong word. They're sort of like environmentalists who aggressively stand up for things, uh, and fight to kind of help save um, Okja and get the girl back her pig. Jake Gyllenhaal is in this delightfully weird role that I remember and I love. I love this performance. Now, Okja was not Oscar eligible because it was considered a TV movie, which is very sad because it wasn't nominated at the Emmys either. Like, nobody nominated this thing. It wasn't nominated at Golden Globes. It wasn't nominated anywhere. Like, everybody was just like, I don't know about Okja. Okay, well, thank you. Like, it got a couple, like, Critics Circle nominations, like, a couple, like, fringe groups picked it up for things, but most people didn't know what to do with it or where to put it. So even though when this premiered at Cannes, Bong Joon-ho was a runner-up for the Palme d'Or, um, and they just, yeah, I don't know. So sadly, this movie like went nowhere. But I can't imagine that more people didn't see like Tilda Swinton's delightfully odd performance and Jake Gyllenhaal's delightfully odd performances and just go, awards? Like, I know we've undernominated Jake Gyllenhaal. We couldn't get him in for Nightcrawler, but could no one look at him and go, this would make a great supporting actor play? He's so bizarre. It's so comedic. It's so outside of his normal casting range. It's great. Whereas like Giancarlo Esposito comes in here and it's like exactly the kind of role you would expect Giancarlo Esposito to play. Like perfectly cast right down to the T. Um, that character's name should have been Giancarlo Esposito as played by Giancarlo Esposito. So it's some of it is perfect and bonkers. It reminded me of Snowpiercer. Like Snowpiercer is great. It has action sequences. It has some really weird things in it, some very quirky things. Tilda Swinton is delightfully bonkers in Snowpiercer as well. Um, but it has some seriousness, some into the tone and some humor, and that's what Bong balances perfectly. That and then through Parasite, I'm assuming Mickey 17. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming there's a little bit of that too, where he becomes a director who sort of excellently is able to navigate multiple genres very well. Like he is able to thread all of the needles and not just one, but like all of them. He's got like three really hard to thread needles up and he just right through. And that's hard. Yeah, the screenplay, which he also wrote, could have answered a few more questions about like the grand plan for the Super Pigs beyond like how do we make more of them? Like what is the plan? Are we going to have farmers continue to raise them and then bring them in? Are they always going to be like, you know, free range super pigs who are 10 years later shipped off to be slaughtered? Or like what's the long-term plan? uh will it ever be more than 26? Are they going to multiply their numbers? Is everybody going to have a super pig in 20 years? you know so it just sort of it's interesting, but things like that were the only thing that gave me pause. The audio description here is done by William Michael Redmond, and I did not catch the team, but he usually works with Deluxe. But Deluxe, I mean, maybe they did a Netflix movie. They don't usually do a Netflix movie. Um, you know, it's really good audio description. I especially what I keyed in on was Okja, the initial description of Okja, and what I remembered what Okja looked like right before I lost my vision. And yeah, that is what I remember. Okja. It was a pretty solid. He's kind of floppy. He looks a little bit like a pig hippopotamus elephant hybrid thing. Not like distinctly a pig, but sort of like a pig who has like other features that have somehow like morphed into him to make him look like a different kind of pig. He's like genetically modified. So, yeah, he does kind of resemble um, other things as well. Um, there's the scene where they go into the plant, and that was sort of horrifying. And I kind of remember watching that the first time and thinking, like, oh God, that poor little girl, you know. She sees it from um, she gets into the plant from like the worst stage and works her way back to Okja. Like she sees like where Okja's gonna end up. It's like starting somebody off with death and then moving forward from there, but like not just death, but like in the grave, you know, embalmed or whatever. And then you work your way out of there, and you see, okay, so this is where you're going. And you're working your whole way up through the slaughterhouse too, and she's finds a way to hopefully save Okja. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're gonna have to watch the movie. It's you know, it'll tug at those little heartstrings of yours. This giant CG super pig that you didn't think you were gonna love is the most effective pig to be on screen since Babe. So, um, I second time through Okja, yeah, I liked it. My first time with audio description. There were, like I said, there were a couple little things. I had this movie. I noticed I gave it a 10 out of 10 on IMDb. I think I was really excited the first time through, and because there's a lot to be excited about. Bong is a visionary director who produces just sort of like this uh, beautiful sci-fi fantasy reality, but also has something to say. In Snowpiercer, he has something to say about class system. Here, he has something to say about the way we, you know, eat, the way we treat other animals. It's a very environmentally friendly movie that way. And like Parasite, obviously, he has something to say there. So, I mean, he's somebody who makes these films that are decidedly weird, but very pointed in their commentary. And I'm drawn to that in Okja. There are just a couple of things that I think would have fleshed it out a little bit more, which is sort of like the long-term plan of what they had, what this company was going to plan beyond just this one competition with the super pig. Because I don't think like 26 pigs is going to feed us for the rest of our lives. And there's a scene with a little piglet later, but I'm like, how do we get a piglet? And then there are more piglets at the end. And I'm like, where are these piglets coming from? So I needed to understand a little bit more about where. And yes, I understand when mommy and daddy love each other very much, but that's not explored here. Um, Okja doesn't fall in love with with another super pig, and then you know, there's no hint that they're, you know, so that's what I'm talking about. Um, check out Okja if you have not. Hopefully, Mickey 17 is good in theaters. Oddly enough, I wasn't invited to a screening of it, which is weird. Sometimes I end up passing on screenings. Other times I just am not invited. But um, and that's it. I'm gonna give Okja backing off the 10 out of 10 a little bit, just because I now that I'm watching it again for a second time, there are a couple things in the story that I think Bong could have strengthened in the story, but I still think he's an excellent fucking visionary director. I would go with an A minus today, and I still think it's a great movie that you should watch. So check it out. It's on Netflix, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and remember, inclusivity is not bad. It just means to include people like me. And I'll see you guys on the other side.